Welcome back to the Mob Mentality Show. My name is Austin Chadwick and my co-host is Chris Lucian. And today we got two guests with us today, Elena Rosheva and David Legge, to talk about several excellent mobbing topics, including early hurdles of mobbing, mobbing on everything, reaching mobbing Zen, and maybe we'll dive into some in-person versus remote, or who else. We'll see where we get to. But yeah, I got some good topics ahead of us. And to get us started, could the two of you introduce yourself, maybe starting with David?
Hello there, I'm David. I work for Redgate. I'm a technical lead there, which means I lead and manage a team. I'm still hands-on coder as well. Elena.
Hello, I'm Elena, and I'm a software engineer at Redgate in Cambridge, in England, and I'm part of the governance team, and we look after data master and data catalog, which involves protecting and preserving data.
Nice. Well, I guess to jump right in, so what were early hurdles of mobbing for you and your teams?
So if I'll jump in there. The kind of traditional having physical setups when we were still in the office pre-COVID world, we were struggling to find areas. We found one nice room. Unfortunately, it was the board's meeting room, but it had enough computers and monitors so everyone could see all the time. We had to then, find areas to we could put a big TV screen.
Nice.
So this is something that we had went through when we were first starting mobbing. So maybe we could back up even a little bit more than that. Like, what caused you to start mobbing? Like, why did you start mobbing? And then like, how did you end up in the boardroom? And were there managers saying this is weird that a bunch of developers are in the boardroom? Like, that story is really interesting. I don't.
Sure. I think, so my answer to that is that I heard Woody Zuhl talking at a couple of conferences in the UK, and it sounded a fantastic idea. I was already sold on the pairing idea, so as a natural extension of that, I could really see the benefit. Then I joined Redgate, and a few months after that, late in one year, and then a few months later, we set up a new team to look into a new line of work, and really the team was very much learning, having to explore a lot of stuff. We were doing quite short spikes to work out where the risks were, so we were trying to do all that together to learn together on it, and it was very effective. We just booked this room. It looked quite a good room to do it in, but we realized we used it a little bit for an hour and a half here and there, but we were conscious that we couldn't book it for a full day, and it was the room that the board tended to use because of the setup.
Got it. And Elena, what was your first experience with mobbing, and what were your impressions when you started? Did you start at the same time, or was it some other time?
Actually, I've got a completely different experience. So because I've joined Redgate recently, like in November, and it was already the pandemic, and everything was remote. So I've never met any of my teammates, or I've never been into the office. So everything for me has been like mobbing from the first day. And so I found it really helpful because obviously I'm like a junior developer in there, like a junior software engineer, and for me that helped me a lot because in the mobbing sessions I could learn a lot and see how the senior developers work, and like I try to get into their speed and try to understand what they mean. So for me, that's definitely helps a lot, because probably if we were in the office, everybody would be in their own desk, and I don't think I would have had the same opportunity to learn, because obviously we'll be all busy with different different tasks and staff meetings and others, whereas now when we have the mobbing, we like one of us is driving, the others are helping, giving ideas, and all the support is there. So I think for a team, for me as an experience, that's really helpful.
Fascinating. So you were onboarded entirely in a remote mob. And so was the team mobbing before they went remote, before you had started? I don't know if this is a question for David or you, Elena.
Yeah, so I think about 5 or 6 months after us using that boardroom, it's not actually the boardroom, but it's just a meeting room that the board used. So about 6 months after, in the June of 2018, 19, sorry, we actually got Woody Zuhl in, having met him a couple of times at conferences, and the second time really speaking and doing some pairing with him. I said, oh, if you're ever in Cambridge, then look me up. I then joined Redgate, and I said, oh, I've met Woody Zuhl and I've got a standing invitation for him to come in. So I actually ended up organising him to come in and do his one-day workshop. And that was great. And the day after, or one of the developers actually seemed to go home and get a massive TV and bring it in, but he seemed to manage to do it on his bike. I've never understood, but he turned up in the car park just with his bike and this massive TV so he could get on metal bobbing, because he was utterly sold on it. And then so we experimented with different ways of doing it, and we actually were doing using Slack at the time to mob from our desks rather than trying to gather around. So yeah, we found almost semi-remote in that sense.
Wow.
Having got Woody Zuhl in, a lot of the teams did start taking up with it and were experimenting and had got their own TV screens and shared desks so they could do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I guess, I'll end my series of questions and give Austin a chance here. I just wanted to ask a little bit about, like, what were the main compare and contrasts that maybe you had, going from in-person mobbing to remote mobbing when you did, and is there anything that you'd recommend to people that haven't done it yet that might get started?
So compare and contrast. So I think just the physical problems of getting a good enough setup to do it on a lot of the time, and not have your neck cranked and all of this. Actually, we fell into with semi-remote mobbing, as it were, quite quickly. But just because you can see the screen, then it's your own screen, you can be comfortable. You can share around quite quickly. You can use Mobster a lot easier. And when you're sharing credentials, a lot of companies aren't keen on that, to have a shared one. So you can use your own credentials, and then it's, you've got that audit trail, as it were.
Yeah, maybe you can help me understand this semi-remote. So I'm trying to envision it. So you're all in your individual cubicles in person at the office, but you're sharing a screen, or are you doing Git handover, or how are you doing your mobbing semi-remote?
Yes. Okay. So I wouldn't say cubicles. It was a reasonably open plan, but we had kind of racks of desk in a U shape almost, and so many of them. So we would sit at our own computers with headphones on, and it sounds ridiculous, and we'd all been sat in our own team area, all looking at our own computers and mobbing away. So we would use whip commits on a branch, and then perhaps at the end. Do the history so it looked a bit better to hand over. We did try different timing techniques. When you're having to do that handover, longer is a little better, rather than doing just 5 minutes as Woody Zuhl taught us. So there is a compromise to be made there. But yes, ironically, we were collaborating by not talking to each other directly, but through headphones and that.
Understood, right on. And I think as you transition to so I'm guessing that you transitioned from semi-remote to full remote, am I right? Yeah. Okay. So
yes.
and that's what both of you have experienced. And one of the topics that seems right in line with that is, how did you keep a team once you went remote?
Yeah, so having already kind of practiced that in the office, actually it was a natural jump to then, just be doing it online and actually remote. That kind of carried on in many teams. And I think that's a really important thing, that the mobbing actually keeps you as a coherent team. There's some work by a paper by Katzenberger, who talks about working groups where are just a set of individuals that happen to be working on the same thing, but also high performing teams where they're to use synergies, to managerialize, but actually working better together. The sum of the whole is greater than that of the parts. To actually get people to work together, mobbing is utterly what you need to be doing. And as Elena has described, bringing someone into a team, if we were just sat here not talking to each other, she wouldn't feel part of a team. I had a new starter last week. We've done loads of mobbing to get them up to speed.
Elena, had you ever done any mobbing before, or heard of it at all before you had joined? And do you have any advice for anybody that's joining a mob for the first time, with that perspective?
I'd never had mobbing before. It's like just conference calls and stuff, but not like working like in the way we do the mobbings now, with sharing experience and solving tasks and stuff. But yeah, I believe if it wasn't that and we could see faces and stuff, so it would have been really difficult to know who you're talking to and stuff. So yeah, I believe mobbing helps so a lot. And also it's not only to do work, but also to bring the team together. For example, in my team, we've got like the planning meetings where we plan our week and stuff. We also have, like, at the end of the day, like a wrap up of the day where we highlight what's been good through the day or what can be better for tomorrow. And like in the last half hour, we finished with a team building. We play games, like obviously they're all remote, but yeah, we stay in the call and we all play together and discuss, and it's like as if you're in the same room with these people, like hanging out with a bunch of friends in front of your TV or computer, and you have fun and stuff. Also, once a month we have this fika where we have 1 hour of sharing stories, drinking tea, coffee, and have some cake and stuff. So that's really part as well. Not only mob just because you need to work with these people, but mob to bring the team together and feel comfortable and get to know each other, because that's important, isn't it? That's your other family, because obviously we spend more time of the day with our colleagues than with our family. So that's how we need to feel with these people, so close. And
yeah, I love the focus on staying connected on an interpersonal level as well. And the other day, Llewellyn Falco had asked me, do you do any team building activities explicitly? And I'm like, yeah, well, we did Jackbox games and other things to try and keep things. And then and he was talking, he kind of went into a story about how some companies spend a ton of money trying to keep their team together remote and doing online cooking classes and all this other stuff. And I realized, thinking back on it, I'm like, it's not something that the team needed because they were already mobbing. But it was almost like, when we got a cooking class, I felt like we just need to do something together and that would be healthy. But I didn't think it was like the team would never talk to each other or get to know each other at all. And so one thing I realized is that mobbing in of itself has this like connecting aspect to it. And anything you do on top of that is kind of icing on the cake, so to speak. But at least there's this benefit in mobbing of, like you said, face-to-face communication. At least it's on video. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better. But also, while we're remote, we're not commuting, we're able to stay engaged in both personal lives and work lives, and have a little bit more of that balance, while at the same time getting to know our peers at work. And so I think we gain a lot more than we lose in the remote story. So one thing that I found really interesting was that you said earlier that you were mobbing, kind of only part-time, or a little bit, and then you kind of went to mobbing on everything over time. So do you want to kind of walk us through that and just talk about what caused it? So Woody came in, and then you had this this period of time where people were really excited about it, and it sounds like from there it grew. So how did it grow, and what was the effect?
It probably there's different teams, and they all have their own autonomy on how much how they work. So certainly some teams really threw themselves into it. Slightly ironically, my team, we did it for quite a while. We had a few team member changes, and our team got a little small, and we didn't really have critical mass for a few months, and it petered out, to be honest, for a while. But I've moved teams, and actually this team is really going for it. And the work, again, we're doing is very exploratory just at the moment. So we're doing a lot of mobbing. Certainly different teams have explored different ways. They've some have been experimenting with kind of an always on Zoom call, and then people just come and go off that. We've roughly been doing that recently. I'm not sure we've always done that, but just experimenting. And it does depend on the personality of the people in the team, because some people just want to have a bit more privacy and do their own thing at times, whereas others are very happy to be mobbing all the time.
Yeah, and that's great that freedom is there. That seems very in line with many places you've seen mobbing, where it's there's a lot of choice for people to do what they're comfortable with. Maybe another angle at this question is not only as far as how much time is spent mobbing, but what kind of things are mobbed on. So is it just code, or is there other things as well that are mobbed on?
So today we've been trying to work out how long something will take us. I don't want to use the word estimates, but it would be a new thing, and we're trying to give an idea of, there's a bit of a buy or build decision to be made. So we are being asked, how long will this take you, which is one of the first estimates I've had to give at Redgate, but there you go. Just number of months kind of thing, very very coarse grained. So we were all together discussing that. We were trying to put together, not actually coding as such, but we were trying to get something out the door as a Linux executable, and so we were trying to work out how to get this thing to build, and then into Docker and all of that. So not strictly coding, but around the build process and sorting those things out, the build pipeline.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's one thing I've experienced since jumping into a place that does it full time, is to see the benefits not only in code, but also in all kinds of things. So all the mobbing roles still have much value, whether you're writing an email or whether you're, building out a pipeline or many other things. And so, yeah, in email in particular, I tend to be verbose. And so the mob cut down very quickly on my verbose email. So that was good. But we try not to do email, but when we do, I try to do it better. I was trying to think.
It's an interesting point there. So I'm involved in the governance of my local school as well, and actually speaking to the head teacher there, they say no one works on anything on their own, and it's very interesting to see parallels like that happening in education, like that, which I've talked about with.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Right on. Well, maybe our next topic is reaching Mob Zen. What did either of you have in mind for this one?
It's probably there's Woody Zool used this absolutely wonderful quote, which I'm now going to get wrong. I think it's by Henry Russell. The object is not to make wonderful art; it is to get to the point where wonderful art is inevitable. And I apologize, I've got the quote wrong, but it's an absolutely beautiful quote, and I really like it. And it's, getting the flow through the system and in through the by mobbing a lot of the time is you just start to get flow through the system, through the mob, and everyone is learning from that, and the work we just rattle through it. And it's probably that was meant by mobbing Zen.
So the Robert Henry quote, right?
Robert Henry, apologies, yes.
Yeah.
I should have had it.
Becomes your natural way of doing it at the moment, isn't it? It's just because obviously that's the only way of communication. So it just becomes part of your day, and you're like, oh, yeah, let's mob on that. And for everything, it's just let's mob. So, and the team jumps together and finds a solution. So, yes, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and it sounded like at least some of your teams have retrospective or something built in at the end of the day. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, so we call it turn up the gears, because we always want to see what's been good and to highlight and try to praise people for their contribution, and like to put them on the spot and give them like a virtual tap at the back and say, yeah, you've done really great and stuff, or also encourage us to be better for tomorrow, so strive for better. So yeah, it's good because that gives you the opportunity to just stop for a minute and think, okay, so because when the day goes, you don't realize how much you do and how much you achieved, because you don't think about it, it just naturally goes. But in this 15 minutes at the end, when we stop and we start talking, you realize how much you've done through the day, what are being the good things, and much people have contributed or realized that actually, oh look, well, we haven't achieved that quite, we wanted it, so that's our better for tomorrow.
Yeah. So what are some ways that, or maybe some things that you have shifted in your work to get into that state where wonderful software is inevitable?
Well, I guess when we put when you do the weekly planning and stuff, and when you see that you achieve the goals you've put, then that's the satisfactory bit, isn't it? To achieve your goals by the deadlines you've put, or if you overachieve.
Nice. Yeah, and I think this whole idea of reaching Mob Zen just kind of brings up continuous improvement to me, and something that Chris likes to point out a lot, which is complacency. And I think it'd be interesting to see other things you guys do for continuous improvement, because it's funny that I've seen mobs almost get complacent almost for a good reason. It was almost kind of like, yeah, we have this flow, or we have continuous delivery and no bugs, and it's just kind of just churning. And it's kind of like, have we reached Zen, or is there more? And there always is more, I've realized. And so someone will come in from learning session with a new radical idea how to automate something we couldn't automate before. Are there any things that your teams do, or maybe at a more wide level in your department or whatever, to kind of fight complacency and keep the continuous improvement spirit going for your teams?
Can you think of anything?
Well,
Elena?
I think of an example actually that was introduced last week, because obviously every day somebody's, oh, shall I start the mob or shall I wait for somebody else to start the thing? So instead of having this wondering, oh, like, do you think others are busy or stuff? So we as a team decided that we'll have this automatic generation of mob sessions for the day. So we've got one that starts like at 8:30 in the morning and it's available for the whole day. So instead of somebody wondering, oh, are the others busy or stuff, you just say, okay, I'm in the mob if somebody wants to join and do something. So I think that was a good plus for the team now, because like it was for me as well, because when you are like a new member, you've got the things you don't want to disturb the team a lot, and obviously you're trying to fit in and to get into their space and everything. So like I wasn't like confident always to start them up, but in this way I'll be like in the morning, I'm there now. So yeah, if you're free, join and we'll mob on things, or I'll just work on something solo while somebody joins. So I recommend that when the team is not confident to do it. So that's a really good solution that I personally like for our team.
Yeah, nice. I think I can see in an environment where there's not like, you're not sure if everybody wants to mob or something like that, to make it easy to mob, to start it out and extend the invitation. That's fantastic. Yeah. How about you, David, for complacency and continuous improvement?
I guess my example would be, as I mentioned last year, actually the mobbing just petered out over time, partly because we'd lost a few members from the team. And there just wasn't that kind of a critical mass to get going, and people were just preferring to work by themselves. So if you don't keep it up, as technical lead, it's very difficult because I'm called away for lots of other things. So I can't really drive a mob myself, and right, come on, we're going to mob on this, because I'm just not there all the time. So I kind of rely on the mob to have its own momentum, and then I've been able to. So this week I've been able to dip in and out. When I've been able to join the mob, I have, but I've had to go off and do other things. So that is a type of complacency. The mobbing just kind of stops and people are working by themselves.
Gotcha.
I like this idea of the randomizer and always creating a space. So creating space is something that has to be done, for people to be invited in. And so I really like the idea of the automation of creating the space, right? It's something that you don't really think about, but it's almost like a coaching activity that has been automated a little bit, and that has its own side effects. And it's always there, it's available. It's like having a mobbing station available for you, and I like that idea a lot.
So in both the teams I've been working in, I've actually made sure we always have the same Zoom URL, and actually then automated. So at 10 a.m. it says stand up and puts that Zoom, but I've kept the same one, so we use that for everything. And then if anyone's in any doubt, they just click on that. In fact, I've got a Slack bot thing that says if you type in a certain thing, it'll give you the URL, and then you can click on it and join in. And then if anyone's doing anything, they can be on that, and others can drift in and out as they please.
Fantastic. Yeah, and one thing I've noticed about this, for as far as striving for Mob Zen, is that it almost is felt like a catch-up bottle in my experience with people and continuous improvement. In that, you start out and people are maybe not used to having their eyes open to look for improvement, and then once it's hard to get it going, but once it's going, it's almost like the backlog of improvements just explodes, and now there's 500 things to improve, and people, and so then you just see people who are passionate about certain things start working on those, and then it almost becomes too much, and then you kind of have the good problem of like there is no endpoint. We're just continually improving, and there's, we're never going to run out of stuff to improve. And I think that's a good place to be. So maybe, it's like reaching Mob Zen, you'll never get there, but to keep striving is the key. So yeah. Any other questions for them, Chris?
Yeah, no, I think that was good. This is really enlightening. I love the digging into the different aspects of improvement, and also I like hearing stories of people joining a team, mobbing for the first time, and things like that. So this is all really good.
Right on. Well, before we close, is there anything that either of you would like to plug before we do? And we can start with Elena.
Yeah, well, I believe if people are not using mobbing in their companies, it's always a good thing to try it, and it doesn't hurt. And yeah, especially with this remote at the moment, that brings the team together and keeps it a team. So I believe it's a really useful tool, and as you said, there's always space to improve and to adapt it to your team's needs and to your team's, like, let's say, personality of the team, so that it fits the way you work and the way your team works, so that it's suitable and it works.
So I think that the rule of 2 feet is really, really important. Just if you're not engaged in that particular mob, if you want to go off and do something else, stretch your legs, go for a walk, whatever, it's really important to give people permission to do that, so they're not feeling kind of enforced fun. They can take it on their own terms, and making sure you have a taking break. So I make sure my team, after about 55 minutes, say, have we had a break? Let's have a 5-10 minute break just to freshen up, and then we come back and be focused time again. Yes, so we're Redgate, we're usually hiring, and it's a really great place to work. So I would encourage you to go and check us out. We're mainly Cambridge, UK based. We do have some sales offices in the US and elsewhere, but thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much for being on the show today. We really appreciate you sharing your stories and your insights. Yeah, for everyone watching, we love the feedback. Please like and subscribe. Yeah, please share this with anybody who, if you felt inspired today by how they started out their mobbing journey and are striving for mobbing Zen and mobbing on many things and overcoming hurdles and really forming teams remotely well. Please share it with somebody. But until next time, mob well and have a good one. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.